On screen, they looked like the picture-perfect couple, a reality TV love story that had fans swooning for years. Kirk and Rasheeda, the duo who turned ordinary moments into household drama and shared their highs and lows with the world, seemed unshakable until now. Behind the glossy filters and polished Instagram posts, whispers have turned into full-blown rumors, and fans are asking the same burning question: has the fairy tale finally crumbled? The whispers of betrayal, sleepless nights, and secret confrontations are swirling faster than ever, leaving even the most loyal supporters wondering what's real and what's for show. It all started with one cryptic post, a late-night message Rasheeda uploaded, only to delete minutes later. "Love shouldn't hurt this much," she wrote, her words hanging like a thundercloud over the fanbase. Screenshots spread instantly, sparking a frenzy of speculation. Was she talking about Kirk? Was this the beginning of the end? Before long, blogs lit up, insiders began dropping hints, and what was once a private struggle spilled out for the entire world to dissect. Sources close to the couple claim heated arguments have been shaking the walls of their Atlanta home. One insider revealed, it's not just disagreements, it's shouting matches, slammed doors, nights spent apart. They're living two different lives under the same roof. And while Kirk has been spotted smiling at industry events, Rasheeda's absence has only fueled the fire. Fans noticed the missing wedding ring, the forced smiles, and the way her once glowing presence now carries a shadow of something heavier, something unspoken. Could it be that the love story that survived scandals, rumors, and endless public scrutiny is finally on its last thread? Or are Kirk and Rasheeda simply playing into the drama that made them household names? Tonight, we pull back the curtain on a story that has everyone talking: on-screen love, off-screen divorce. Kirk and Rasheeda exposed. Under the glow of flashing cameras and polished veneers of fame, the cracks in Kirk and Rasheeda's marriage were starting to look less like whispers and more like fractures everyone could see, though no one dared to say out loud until the storm of leaks began pouring in. It was the kind of drama that didn't just live on gossip blogs but spilled into dinner table conversations, where even casual fans felt entitled to dissect their every move, their every word, and their every lingering silence. The first real sign of unraveling wasn't that cryptic post, or even the sudden absence of matching smiles on red carpets. It was the way their closest circles started to hint that things weren't the same. A family friend described one evening at a gathering where Kirk arrived alone, brushing off questions with a forced laugh, while Rasheeda stayed home. The excuse was she wasn't feeling well, but the knowing glances in the room told a different story. The kind of story that hinted she was tired of standing beside him, tired of performing the role of the unshakable wife while the weight of betrayal pressed heavier than ever. And then came the heated argument that neighbors swore they overheard through the quiet Atlanta night. A fight so loud and raw that people passing by slowed their cars just to catch fragments of the chaos. "You lied to me again, Kirk," Rasheeda's voice carried, trembling with the pain of someone who had given too many second chances. His response, cold and defensive, echoed back, "I messed up, but I didn't deserve to be treated like the enemy in my own house." The drama didn't stop at their doorstep. Social media caught fire when Rasheeda was seen at an upscale restaurant without her ring, sitting across from a longtime friend who appeared to be consoling her. Fans went into overdrive, speculating that she was airing her heartbreak to anyone willing to listen, while Kirk was photographed the very same night laughing at a club with business associates, his smile wide but his eyes telling a different story. "He looks like he's pretending everything is fine," one fan tweeted, "but his soul looks tired." Those little observations fed the flames, giving the world permission to imagine the worst. To assume that what was once a united front was now two people drifting farther apart. The betrayal allegations resurfaced, dragging up old wounds the couple had once tried to bury in public apologies and reality TV confessionals. Insiders claimed Rasheeda had found text messages again, the kind no wife should ever have to read. It was the ultimate slap in the face, a source explained. She fought so hard to rebuild after the last time, only to feel like history was repeating itself. And in that moment, the loyalty of fans split in half. Some defended her, praising her strength and questioning why she tolerated humiliation at all. Others excused Kirk, insisting that men in his position are always targeted, that temptation is everywhere, and maybe this was nothing more than another misunderstanding. But as the days passed and the two avoided making joint appearances, the silence between them grew louder than any rumor. The tension reached a breaking point during a family event where emotions ran higher than anyone could have predicted. Witnesses claim Rasheeda confronted Kirk in front of relatives, her voice, sharp, cutting through the polite chatter. "You don't get to humiliate me in private and smile in public like nothing happened," she snapped, her words freezing the room. Kirk, visibly cornered, tried to keep his tone calm, but his frustration slipped out. "I'm trying, but you won't let me forget a mistake I've already paid for." Their children, caught in the middle, reportedly left the room, too young to shoulder the weight of a war that wasn't theirs, yet old enough to understand that something was breaking. Friends close to the couple said that after that night, the separation was no longer an idea whispered in the dark but a reality. Being mapped out with lawyers and late-night phone calls, Rasheeda allegedly packed a bag and stayed at a hotel for several nights, seeking clarity in the silence, while Kirk stayed behind, haunted by an empty house and the realization that the empire they built together was slipping from his grasp. He's afraid of losing her, a confidant revealed, but he's also too proud to admit just how much he's at fault. And she's exhausted, like she's finally realizing she can't keep stitching up the same wound. The drama spilled further when a leaked audio clip surfaced online, capturing what seemed to be one of their private arguments. Rasheeda's voice, raw and breaking, accused him of putting fame before family. "You love the cameras more than you love me," she cried. Kirk's response was chilling in its bluntness. "The cameras are what paid for all of this." Fans dissected every second of the clip, replaying it like a courtroom exhibit, debating who was right, who was wrong, and whether this was the final nail in the coffin. For the couple who had once branded themselves as survivors of scandal, this felt different, heavier, as if the stage had been set for a finale no one wanted but everyone expected. As the rumors intensified, their fanbase became an echo chamber of speculation, heartbreak, and betrayal. Some said divorce papers had already been filed. Others swore it was just another storyline, another plot twist designed to keep their names in headlines and their brand alive. But the undeniable truth was that something had shifted, something too deep to be explained away as just drama. Kirk and Rasheeda, the couple who once seemed untouchable, were now unraveling before the world's eyes. Every argument, every accusation, and every tear turned into entertainment for the masses. And the question hanging over everyone's head was simple: was this the end of their love story, or just another storm they would survive? The morning after the leaked audio clip shook their fanbase. The fallout was impossible to ignore, not just online but inside their own home, where the silence between Kirk and Rasheeda was louder than any argument they had ever had. For years, they had been able to plaster over their wounds with staged smiles, reality TV confessionals, and carefully curated Instagram posts, but this time the mask was slipping too fast to fix. And the world was watching every second of it. Rasheeda, exhausted and red-eyed from nights of confrontation, reportedly told a close friend that she felt like a prisoner inside her own marriage, trapped in the loop of betrayal and public humiliation. "He wants me to forget, but how can I when the scars keep reopening?" she confessed, her voice trembling. Her friend later relaying the sentiment to gossip outlets who devoured every syllable. Kirk, meanwhile, seemed determined to control the narrative, seen meeting with his PR team, strategizing ways to spin the story as if it were just another scandal to outlive. But those close to him said he was unraveling privately, pacing halls, chain-smoking, and muttering to himself that Rasheeda couldn't possibly walk away after everything they had built together. Fans, however, were relentless in dissecting the drama, and when Rasheeda showed up at her boutique without her ring yet again, speculation became certainty in the public eye. Paparazzi snapped photos of her looking distant, clutching her phone tightly as though it contained the only lifeline she had left. Meanwhile, Kirk was photographed entering a hotel lobby late at night with two unidentified men, fueling rumors that he was seeking legal counsel behind her back. The images circulated like wildfire, each one captioned with theories ranging from secret settlements to hidden affairs. The online frenzy reached such intensity that even celebrities began weighing in. One reality star tweeted, "Sometimes, holding on hurts more than letting go," which fans immediately interpreted as a subtle nod toward Rasheeda's struggle. Another chimed in with, "If he can't honor her, somebody else will," setting the stage for rumors that Rasheeda already had someone else offering her comfort. The drama didn't just stay in headlines. It seeped into their family, leaving loved ones divided. Rasheeda's mother, who had never been shy about voicing her distrust of Kirk in the past, reportedly urged her daughter to end the marriage once and for all. "He's embarrassed you for the last time," she allegedly told her, her words both a comfort and a push toward finality. On the other hand, some mutual friends urged reconciliation, reminding them of their years together, the empire they had built, and the children who still needed a united home. But every suggestion of healing felt like a slap to Rasheeda, who was tired of being told to be strong for the sake of appearances. In one particularly raw moment, she allegedly told her inner circle, "I'm tired of being strong. I want to be free." The most explosive twist came when an anonymous source leaked what they claimed were screenshots of Kirk messaging another woman. Messages laced with late-night affection and promises that had no business being sent by a married man. Though unverified, the screenshots hit social media with the force of a wrecking ball, instantly trending and dragging Kirk's name through the mud once more. He denied the claims fiercely, even going live to insist, "That's not me. Those are fake. People want to see us fall apart." But the damage was done. Fans filled his comment sections with accusations, while others begged him to do right by Rasheeda before it was too late. Rasheeda herself remained silent publicly, but sources claimed she was livid behind closed doors, throwing her phone across the room after seeing the messages, shouting at Kirk that she could no longer believe a single word that came out of his mouth. Their arguments became so intense that neighbors once again overheard late-night shouting matches, this time escalating to Kirk storming out of the house and slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. "You can't keep punishing me for the past," he roared before leaving, his car engine revving into the night. Rasheeda's reply, muffled but furious, carried through the walls. "The past never left. Kirk's sitting right here at our table every night." Those who overheard swore they had never heard such venom between them, the kind that no amount of staged reconciliation could cover. By now, their children were beginning to feel the strain, asking painful questions neither parent was prepared to answer. Insiders revealed that one of the kids confronted Kirk directly, asking if he was going to leave, like everyone says online. The look on his face, described by those who saw it, was one of shame and panic. A father suddenly realizing that his mistakes weren't just wounding his wife, but bleeding into the innocence of his children. Rasheeda, seeing the toll on her family, reportedly broke down in tears that night, whispering to her son, "No matter what happens, you'll always have me." What once seemed like a scripted reality show plotline had crossed into something raw and terrifyingly real. The rumors of divorce papers now felt less like speculation and more like inevitability. The insiders closest to them claimed that lawyers had been contacted on both sides, with preliminary discussions already in motion. Yet at the same time, Kirk was seen publicly trying to win her back, posting throwback photos of their happier times, captioning them with cryptic notes about forever and holding on. Fans were torn between mocking the gestures as desperate PR moves and applauding him for at least trying to salvage the wreckage. But for Rasheeda, who had given countless chances before, the gestures seemed hollow, like roses placed on a grave. And as the tension built toward an unthinkable breaking point, whispers of a shocking betrayal yet to be revealed began to circulate, rumors that suggested the deepest wound of all was still hidden, waiting to surface at the worst possible time. The stage was set not for healing, but for a revelation that could shatter everything beyond repair, leaving even the most loyal fans questioning whether love was ever real, or if it had all been a performance for the cameras. The whispers of an even darker secret became the kind of rumor that couldn't be silenced, and it hit Kirk and Rasheeda's world like a ticking bomb. For weeks, speculation swirled that what the fans had already seen was just the surface of the storm, that behind the arguments, the accusations, and the missing wedding ring lay something deeper. Something so raw it could dismantle everything they had built together. The gossip blogs hinted first, dropping vague lines about a betrayal worse than anyone expected. And soon enough, anonymous insiders fed the fire, claiming that Rasheeda had discovered not only late-night messages to another woman but financial moves that suggested Kirk had been hiding money, siphoning off funds from the businesses they built together. For a couple who had always branded themselves as partners in every sense, the idea of secret accounts and hidden dealings cut deeper than even the infidelity rumors. She felt like he wasn't just cheating on her heart, one source said, but on her legacy too. The drama exploded one night when Rasheeda confronted Kirk after finding receipts tucked inside his jacket pocket, receipts for expensive dinners, gifts and transfers that had nothing to do with their shared ventures. The confrontation, described by someone close to the family, was volcanic. Rasheeda's voice cracked through the quiet of their home, trembling with fury. "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I haven't noticed the money missing? The lies stacking up, the way you slip out at night like nobody sees?" Kirk, defensive as always, snapped back, "It's business. You don't understand everything I do to keep us afloat." But Rasheeda wasn't buying it this time. Her reply was ice cold. "This isn't business, it's betrayal. And you've been cashing out on my trust for years." The fight spilled into the public eye when one of their children, overwhelmed by the constant tension, called a family friend in tears. That friend, unable to keep quiet, told the story to a gossip outlet, and within hours headlines screamed that Kirk had been hiding money and living a double life. Fans were stunned. Cheating was one thing, but this is unforgivable, one follower posted, while another wrote, "If Rasheeda walks away now, I'll respect her forever." The scandal divided not just fans but family. Rasheeda's mother doubled down on her pleas for her daughter to leave him once and for all, while Kirk's relatives insisted the story was blown out of proportion, claiming receipts didn't prove anything. Yet the silence from Kirk himself only made things worse. When he finally did speak, it was during a late-night livestream, his face tense, his voice cracking under the weight of public judgment. "I've made mistakes, I've made bad decisions," he admitted, "but I never set out to hurt her, never set out to hurt my family. Y'all think you know everything from a headline, but you don't see what's really going on inside this house." But the live stream backfired. Instead of sympathy, fans flooded the comments with rage, demanding accountability, accusing him of gaslighting, and begging Rasheeda to leave before it destroyed her completely. "We've supported you both for years," one longtime fan wrote, "but enough is enough. She deserves peace." As the chaos grew, Rasheeda reportedly began seriously considering divorce. Not as a threat, not as a bargaining chip, but as a plan. She met with attorneys quietly, her movements tracked by paparazzi, her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses that couldn't disguise the exhaustion etched into every line. Insiders claimed she asked pointed questions about custody, about splitting assets, about walking away with her dignity intact. "She's ready," one attorney whispered. "This isn't talk anymore, it's preparation." Kirk, desperate to pull her back, attempted a grand gesture that only fueled more headlines. He showed up unannounced at her boutique with a bouquet, so massive it barely fit through the door, cameras capturing every step of his attempt at redemption. "I love you, and I'm not giving up on us," he pleaded in front of staff and stunned customers. Rasheeda, icy and unmoved, told him in front of everyone, "Flowers don't fix betrayal, Kirk. Not this time." The footage went viral within hours, fans replaying her words like an anthem, memes flooding timelines, turning her refusal into a symbol of strength. But even as Rasheeda stood firm, the emotional toll was undeniable. Late at night, alone in hotel rooms or on drives meant to clear her head, she broke down in private. The weight of ending a decades-long marriage pressing on her like an anchor. Friends described her as torn, not because she doubted her decision, but because she mourned the love that once existed, the partnership they once shared. "It's not about leaving a man," a confidant explained. "It's about leaving behind the version of herself that believed in forever." The children, caught in the crossfire, added another layer of heartbreak. One reportedly asked Rasheeda if the family would still be a family if she left, a question that left her sobbing uncontrollably. Kirk, in turn, was said to be racked with guilt, pacing through empty rooms, muttering to himself about mistakes he couldn't undo. Yet instead of taking accountability fully, he leaned into denial, telling friends, "She come around. She always does." But those closest to Rasheeda insisted this time was different. This time the wounds were too deep, the betrayals too stacked, and the lies too suffocating to forgive. And just as the divorce whispers seemed to harden into inevitability, another twist rattled the story. A woman stepped forward publicly, claiming to have been involved with Kirk during the very months he swore he was working on his marriage. Her claims were detailed, her evidence shocking photos, receipts, and even voicemails that painted a devastating picture. Fans erupted, media outlets swarmed, and suddenly the couple's private nightmare was splashed across every screen in America. The betrayal wasn't just speculation anymore, it was evidence, undeniable, and inescapable. For Rasheeda, it was confirmation of every fear she had held in her heart, and for Kirk, it was the collapse of whatever image he thought he still controlled. The world braced for Rasheeda's next move, knowing it could define not just her future but the legacy of their entire on-screen empire. Would she file the papers and walk away once and for all, or would she shock everyone by trying to rebuild the ruins one more time? The fans waited, divided, torn between wanting closure and fearing the pain of watching her forgive the unforgivable. Again, the tension between Kirk and Rasheeda had reached a point where every glance, every gesture, every word felt loaded with meaning. a constant reminder to fans and family alike that the marriage was teetering on the edge of collapse. The weeks that followed the public revelations became a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, public scrutiny, and private heartbreak. Rasheeda's inner circle described her as a woman transformed in no longer the smiling, forgiving partner, but someone sharpened by betrayal, determined to reclaim her life on her own terms. She spent hours consulting lawyers, meticulously reviewing finances, and mapping out every possible scenario to ensure that when the moment came, she would walk away, not only with dignity but with a sense of empowerment that no one could take away. Yet even as she prepared, the heartache was undeniable. Friends said she often sat alone in her boutique after closing, staring at the walls, replaying memories of the happy moments that now felt painfully out of reach. Kirk, on the other hand, oscillated between desperation and defiance. Friends reported nights where he would sit in his office, phone in hand, replaying old videos of Rasheeda smiling at him. Moments he believed captured the real us, and muttering under his breath, "How did it all go so wrong?" The public saw him as brash and cavalier, attending events with a forced grin, but behind closed doors, he was unraveling. Every message Rasheeda ignored, every attorney meeting she held without him, felt like another fracture in his carefully constructed image of control. One source close to him revealed, he thought love could conquer everything, but he didn't realize that repeated betrayals erode even the strongest bonds. Now he's facing the consequences, and there's no script to save him. The children, caught in the middle, became an unexpected flashpoint in the drama. One night, Rasheeda was reportedly awakened by her daughter crying, asking if mommy and daddy were going to fight again. Rasheeda's response, tender yet firm, left an impression. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes love isn't enough, but no matter what, I will always be here for you. The vulnerability of that moment humanized her in a way that fans hadn't fully appreciated before. Social media lit up with posts praising her strength, with thousands writing messages like, "She is the real queen. Respect for choosing herself and her kids over a toxic marriage." Meanwhile, Kirk's attempts to reach out to the children were described by insiders as awkward and stilted, failing to bridge the emotional gap that had grown between them. The next explosive turn came during what insiders described as a final confrontation, a night where emotions ran hotter than ever. Rasheeda, backed by a few close friends and her attorney, reportedly sat Kirk down in the living room of their shared home. The conversation was intense, raw, and reportedly went on for hours. Witnesses say she laid bare every grievance, every betrayal, and every sleepless night she had endured. "I have tried to forgive you over and over, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," she allegedly said, her voice steady but searing. "I've given everything, my trust, my love, my heart, and you've thrown it away again and again. I will not live in fear or humiliation any longer." Kirk's responses reportedly swung between pleading and defensiveness. "I've made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you," he said at one point, only for Rasheeda to cut him off sharply. "Love isn't enough. Actions matter. And your actions have spoken louder than words." The confrontation was said to culminate in a decision that shocked even those close to the couple. Rasheeda would move forward with divorce proceedings immediately. Sources revealed that she had coordinated with lawyers, financial advisors, and her inner circle to ensure the transition was as smooth as possible for herself and the children. Kirk, reportedly stunned, was left to grapple with the reality that his attempts to mend the relationship were too little, too late. Friends described him walking the house aimlessly for hours afterward, the weight of the finality pressing down on him like never before. While the private confrontation marked a turning point, the public spectacle of their unraveling continued. Paparazzi captured Rasheeda leaving the home with boxes of belongings, her expression calm, almost defiant, while Kirk was photographed standing at the doorway, watching, silent and defeated. Social media erupted once again, the image of Rasheeda, with her head held high, becoming a viral symbol of empowerment and resilience. Memes, posts, and videos flooded feeds worldwide, fans celebrating her courage and speculating endlessly about Kirk's next move. Rumors circulated that Kirk attempted to contact media outlets to tell his side, but insiders claimed that his narratives were met with skepticism, with even close friends urging him to focus on repair and reflection rather than public justification. As the weeks rolled on, both Kirk and Rasheeda attempted to carve out separate lives. Rasheeda, focused on her boutique and children, reportedly found solace in new routines, fitness, and reconnecting with old friends who reminded her of life outside the constraints of her marriage. Kirk, on the other hand, struggled with a combination of public scrutiny and private regret, reportedly oscillating between denial and attempts at redemption. One particularly sensational rumor even suggested that he reached out to Rasheeda with an offer of financial settlement far beyond what was legally necessary, prompting online debates about whether money could truly compensate for emotional betrayal. Despite the separation, the tension remained, fueled by social media, insider leaks, and the unavoidable curiosity of fans. Every post, every story, every interview became fodder for speculation. One night, a leaked video of Kirk allegedly rehearsing a public apology surfaced online, showing him practicing lines like, "I take full responsibility for my actions." Before ultimately discarding the script in frustration, fans dissected every frame, turning even his failures into a form of entertainment. Rasheeda, in turn, was praised for maintaining her composure publicly, attending events and continuing her work with dignity, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around her ex-husband. And just when it seemed the drama had reached its peak, insiders hinted at yet another twist: potential reconciliations, secret discussions, or even a shocking public announcement that could reverse the trajectory entirely. The suspense kept fans glued to every update, eagerly refreshing feeds, speculating endlessly, and debating who had been wronged more, who had suffered more, and who ultimately would emerge from the wreckage stronger. The story of Kirk and Rasheeda had become more than a personal saga. It had evolved into a public spectacle of betrayal, resilience, and the complex nature of love under the unforgiving eye of fame. The narrative, rich with twists, heartbreak, and shocking revelations, seemed destined to continue, each day offering the possibility of a new scandal, a fresh betrayal, or a dramatic twist that no one could have anticipated. And as the fans watched, they weren't just observers, they were participants, dissecting, judging, and living every moment of the unraveling love story as if it were their own. Kirk and Rasheeda, once a symbol of on-screen romance, now stood as a cautionary tale of the collision between private pain and public obsession. A reminder that even love amplified by fame is not immune to human flaws, mistakes, and the ultimate consequences of betrayal. The stage was set, the players laid bare, and the world waited, breathless, for the next act in a drama that had already redefined what it meant to live and love in the spotlight. The heartbreak was palpable, the suspense unrelenting, and the question loomed larger than ever: could there be redemption, or had the curtain fallen forever on Kirk and Rasheeda's once celebrated union? The aftermath of Rasheeda's decision to move forward with divorce proceedings left both her and Kirk in a state of limbo, a suspended reality where every action was scrutinized, every glance was interpreted, and every word spoken or left unsaid was weaponized by fans and insiders alike. The emotional fallout wasn't confined to private conversations or closed doors. It unfolded in public spaces, in social media posts, in paparazzi shots, and in the whispers of those who claimed insider knowledge. Rasheeda, once the face of graceful endurance, now embodied a complex blend of resilience, vulnerability, and quiet defiance. She was often seen leaving her boutique late at night, carrying bags filled with paperwork, personal items, and symbolic mementos of a life that was rapidly changing. Each step she took was measured, deliberate, a silent declaration that she was reclaiming her autonomy, that she would not be defined by Kirk's actions or the crumbling illusion of their marital facade. Sources close to her said that in these moments, she would sometimes pause, looking out over the city lights, reflecting on the years of love, betrayal, and public exposure that had brought her to this point. Her friends described her as haunted but unbroken, a woman who carried the weight of heartbreak with dignity, knowing that the world was watching and judging, yet refusing to allow their gaze to dictate her choices. Meanwhile, Kirk's days and nights became a juxtaposition of frantic attempts to control the narrative and private introspection that often left him sleepless. While he maintained a facade of confidence at industry events, behind closed doors he grappled with regret, denial, and a growing awareness that some mistakes might be irrevocable. Friends reported that he would sit alone in his home, replaying conversations, scrutinizing every interaction, and imagining ways to repair the damage he had caused. The public, however, did not see this side of him. Instead, they witnessed posts of him smiling at networking dinners, attending galas, and maintaining an image of normalcy, which many fans interpreted as either arrogance or deep denial. The dissonance between Kirk's private anguish and his public persona only amplified the drama, feeding the rumors, and leaving audiences speculating whether he was genuinely remorseful or simply performing the grief that had become expected of him. Tension escalated further when Rasheeda's boutique became a focal point of media attention. Paparazzi and fans alike captured images of her arriving and leaving, meticulously noting details such as the absence of her wedding ring, the expressions on her face, and the people she was seen conversing with. One particular night, she was spotted exiting the boutique with a group of close friends, each woman offering support, their laughter and whispers creating a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her marriage. Fans quickly seized upon the images, crafting narratives ranging from newfound independence to hints of romantic possibilities with supportive friends. Though Rasheeda herself remained fiercely private, refusing to comment publicly on any speculation, in interviews with select outlets, she carefully walked the line between transparency and discretion, emphasizing her focus on family, work, and personal growth rather than detailing the betrayals she had endured. Yet even these measured statements were twisted and dissected by online communities, turning every carefully chosen word into a point of contention, an invitation for debate, or fodder for clickbait headlines. As the weeks passed, the dynamic between Kirk and Rasheeda grew increasingly complex, a delicate interplay of avoidance, confrontation, and lingering emotional attachment that left fans both captivated and horrified. Sources described instances where they would be seen in close proximity during family events or public functions, exchanging tense glances that spoke volumes about unresolved feelings, unspoken apologies, and the weight of shared history. In one particularly notable incident, a mutual friend revealed that the two had shared a private dinner, ostensibly to discuss logistics related to their children and business affairs. The dinner reportedly lasted for hours, punctuated by heated exchanges, emotional pauses, and moments of raw honesty. Rasheeda, according to insiders, laid out her boundaries clearly, emphasizing that reconciliation was not on the table, that her priority was the well-being of herself and her children, and that any attempts by Kirk to regain control would be met with firm resistance. Kirk, in turn, reportedly oscillated between contrition and desperation, at times pleading for forgiveness, at other times asserting his vision of what their future could still be if she chose to see past his mistakes. The children, deeply affected by the unfolding drama, became a central point of negotiation, emotional leverage, and mutual concern. Friends close to Rasheeda revealed that she often spent late nights comforting them, explaining in age-appropriate terms why the family dynamic was shifting and how both parents still loved them despite the turbulence. Kirk, grappling with guilt and the desire to remain close to his children, reportedly attempted to maintain routines, attending school events and extracurricular activities, but sources noted that the tension was palpable, the interactions strained, and the once effortless family moments now fraught with emotional undertones. Fans watching the saga online debated endlessly over custody, emotional impact, and the long-term consequences of publicized marital strife on children, fueling a collective anxiety that mirrored the private turmoil of those directly involved. Amidst this, new revelations emerged that reignited media frenzy. Anonymous sources leaked claims of additional financial discrepancies and secret communications, suggesting that Kirk's actions had extended beyond emotional betrayal into areas of control, secrecy, and manipulation that Rasheeda was only now fully uncovering. Whether true or fabricated, these claims intensified the public's perception of a relationship in irreversible decline. Headlines screamed of hidden accounts, secret meetings, and clandestine interactions with individuals outside the marriage, each story escalating the tension, stoking outrage, and amplifying the drama. Rasheeda, aware of the leaks, reportedly focused on maintaining composure, consulting her legal team, and prioritizing her children. But even insiders admitted that the emotional toll was profound, leaving her moments of solitude and reflection that were heavy with sadness, anger, and resolve. Kirk's public attempts at damage control became increasingly theatrical, with staged appearances, social media posts, and interviews designed to portray contrition. While privately he wrestled with denial and desperation, sources indicated that he attempted multiple reconciliatory gestures, gifts, messages, and symbolic acts, but Rasheeda's resolve remained unshaken, her support network reinforcing her stance, and her focus squarely on reclaiming her independence. This dynamic created a feedback loop of public speculation, private confrontation, and media amplification, with each event feeding into the next, leaving the story in a state of perpetual tension that kept fans, insiders, and media outlets enthralled. A particularly dramatic moment occurred when a leaked voicemail allegedly from Kirk to Rasheeda surfaced online. In the recording, his voice trembled with urgency, attempting to explain decisions, justify actions, and plead for understanding. Rasheeda's response, captured in a separate but related leak, was icy, precise, and cutting, highlighting her exhaustion with repeated cycles of apology and betrayal. The leaks went viral, analyzed frame by frame, clip by clip, creating a digital courtroom where fans judged each action, each word, and each intonation, assigning blame and sympathy with fervor. Social media commentary ranged from outrage to support, with hashtags trending that both celebrated Rasheeda's strength and condemned Kirk's behavior, creating a polarized public narrative that intensified the spectacle of their disintegrating marriage. As the saga progressed, insiders hinted at potential new developments, rumors of reconciliations, unexpected alliances, or even public announcements that could dramatically alter the course of the story. While Rasheeda remained focused on her children, her boutique, and personal growth, Kirk reportedly explored avenues to regain public sympathy, leveraging friends, media contacts, and strategic appearances to reshape his image. The tension between private resolution and public performance created a layered narrative that blurred lines between reality and spectacle, leaving fans questioning what was authentic and what was orchestrated for maximum drama. Amidst it all, the emotional core of the story remained undeniable. Rasheeda's journey became a symbol of resilience in the face of betrayal, heartbreak, and relentless public scrutiny. Kirk's struggle, by contrast, painted a portrait of regret, desperation, and the limits of public image when private actions fracture trust. Together, their saga illustrated the precarious balance between love, fame, and accountability, a narrative that continued to captivate audiences, provoke debate, and inspire endless speculation about the ultimate outcome. The story of Kirk and Rasheeda, layered with betrayal, resilience, heartbreak, and suspense, had transformed from a personal marital struggle into a public phenomenon, a tale where every revelation, every confrontation, and every moment of emotional exposure was amplified by social media, paparazzi, and fan engagement. With each passing week, the saga deepened, the stakes escalated, and the question remained: could love ever survive such trials, or had the combination of fame, betrayal, and relentless scrutiny irreparably altered the course of their lives? Fans and insiders alike waited with bated breath, knowing that in this drama, every moment mattered, and the next revelation could redefine everything once again. The tension between Rasheeda and Kirk reached a point where silence no longer worked as a shield, and every encounter, whether deliberate or accidental, turned into a spark waiting to ignite a storm. Their world had become so magnified under the public eye that even a passing glance between them at a family gathering could spin into a headline by morning. For Rasheeda, the weight of trying to navigate dignity, motherhood, and self-preservation in the glare of fame became both exhausting and strangely clarifying. She began to sense that the unraveling of her marriage was not simply an ending but a transformation, a moment in which she could finally define herself on her own terms rather than in relation to Kirk. Yet, transformation does not come without cost. The quiet tears behind closed doors, the unanswered questions from the children, and the late-night thoughts that spun in endless loops all reminded her of the enormity of what she was leaving behind. At the same time, Kirk's desperate attempts to pull her back into the web of their shared history grew increasingly dramatic. Friends whispered about how he alternated between moments of raw apology and flashes of anger when his gestures were dismissed. At times, he left flowers, handwritten notes, or voice messages that sounded like they came from a man stripped of pride, begging for forgiveness. But in other moments, his frustration showed, spilling into heated exchanges that left Rasheeda resolute in her decision to keep distance. This pattern played out publicly when Kirk made an appearance at one of her boutique events. An unannounced arrival that caused a wave of murmurs to ripple through the crowd. Cameras clicked as he approached her, offering a polite smile and carefully measured words. Yet the tension in Rasheeda's face spoke more than her composed tone could conceal. That single moment became viral within hours, with fans debating whether his presence was an act of reconciliation or manipulation. A question that reflected the larger confusion surrounding their fractured bond. Behind the scenes, lawyers became as present in their lives as friends once had been. Divorce papers were drawn, reviewed, contested, and redrafted in cycles that seemed endless. Each clause about finances, property, and custody was not just legal language but a reminder of how entwined their lives had been. Rasheeda, despite her exhaustion, insisted on fairness, ensuring that the children's stability remained at the center of negotiations. She was determined that they would not become pawns in a battle of ego or reputation. Kirk, meanwhile, struggled to separate his personal emotions from the stark realities of legal negotiation. At times he balked at her terms, interpreting them as punishments rather than protections. While other times he seemed too weary to fight, signing papers with a look of defeat. Their friends watched helplessly, torn between empathy for Rasheeda's resilience and pity for Kirk's unraveling. Even those closest to them admitted that the situation had blurred moral lines, making it impossible to assign blame in neat, simple terms. Public speculation, however, thrived on absolutes. Online communities became battlegrounds of opinion, dividing into camps that either championed Rasheeda as a symbol of strength or defended Kirk as a flawed man trying to find redemption. Comment sections overflowed with debates, some thoughtful and empathetic, others vicious and accusatory. Rose and fell in popularity, each new development fueling another cycle of commentary. What few recognized was that behind the spectacle, both Rasheeda and Kirk were fighting battles too intimate for public consumption. Rasheeda's nights of solitude were heavy with the ache of memory. Moments when the laughter, the intimacy, and the dreams they once shared still clung to her like ghosts. Kirk's isolation, on the other hand, was filled with restless energy, pacing floors, replaying mistakes, and searching for a way to rewrite a story already too far gone. Then came the night when another leak shook the fragile balance they were maintaining. This time, it wasn't a voicemail or a cryptic photo but a series of financial documents that hinted at years of mismanagement and secrecy tied directly to Kirk. The revelation painted him as not only unfaithful but untrustworthy in ways that extended beyond their marriage. The story exploded online, magnifying outrage and leaving Kirk cornered. For Rasheeda, the leak was devastating but also oddly liberating. It confirmed what she had long suspected, yet had never fully seen on paper. The betrayal wasn't just emotional but systemic, built into the very structure of their shared life. Fans, while divided before, leaned heavily in her favor after the leak, praising her for her composure and strength. Kirk issued a statement calling the documents misinterpreted, but the damage was done. In the midst of this chaos, their children remained the silent victims, carrying the burden of whispers at school, paparazzi outside their activities, and the awkwardness of shifting between two parents at odds. Rasheeda worked tirelessly to shield them, creating routines and affirmations that reminded them of stability, love, and security. Kirk, despite his turmoil, made sure to show up for their milestones, though the shadow of scandal often followed him. There was a heartbreaking moment during a school performance where both parents attended, sitting on opposite sides of the auditorium. Their eyes met briefly, an acknowledgement of shared pride for their child. And for a fleeting second, the bitterness seemed to dissolve. But when the lights dimmed and the applause faded, so too did the illusion of unity, leaving them once again in separate worlds. The story of their unraveling had become more than just gossip. It was now a cultural narrative about love, betrayal, resilience, and the crushing weight of fame. Their saga mirrored the fragility of modern relationships under the microscope of celebrity, where private failures became public entertainment. Yet beneath the noise, both Rasheeda and Kirk were human beings, flawed and vulnerable. Caught in a storm they had never imagined would rage so fiercely. The world demanded answers, closure, or at the very least another twist in the tale. But for them, the only real desire was peace, something that seemed more elusive with each passing day. As the divorce neared finalization, a sense of inevitability hung in the air. Rasheeda, though weary, walked with a quiet strength that suggested survival, if not healing. Kirk, in contrast, appeared diminished, as though each revelation had stripped away another layer of the persona he had built. The media continued to circle, fans continued to speculate, and insiders continued to leak. But the real story was no longer theirs to tell. It belonged to Rasheeda and Kirk, to people bound by history, divided by choices, and forever transformed by a love that had crumbled under the weight of betrayal and exposure. The days that followed the near finalization of Kirk and Rasheeda's divorce were nothing short of cinematic. With every glance, every rumor, and every public appearance magnified into a new chapter of their unraveling story, and it seemed the world was watching with bated breath, waiting to see if their saga would end in quiet resolution or another explosion of heartbreak and betrayal. And for Rasheeda, the pressure to maintain her image as both a strong mother and an empowered woman became heavier by the day, though she carried it with an unshakable grace that only fueled her fans' admiration. Because she wasn't simply walking away from a marriage, she was rewriting the narrative of what it meant to endure public humiliation and still rise above it. Yet behind her controlled composure, the nights were often long and heavy, filled with silent tears and the haunting echoes of laughter and love she once thought would last forever. While Kirk was living in the wreckage of his own choices, bouncing between desperate attempts to win back what he had lost and reckless acts of defiance that only dug him deeper into the public's disfavor. And though he tried to hold on to dignity, whispers from insiders painted a picture of a man unraveling, showing up unannounced at Rasheeda's home in the dead of night, leaving cryptic messages about how she was still his world, and then disappearing into stretches of isolation where even his closest friends couldn't reach him. And it was during one of these absences that rumors surfaced of Kirk being spotted in the company of someone new. A younger woman whose presence immediately set social media ablaze with accusations that he had moved on even before his marriage was formally dissolved, a claim Kirk tried to deny but which fans seized upon as proof of his inability to respect the sanctity of what was once his family. Yet perhaps the cruelest twist of all was that these rumors reached Rasheeda through her own children, who had overheard whispers at school and came home asking questions no mother should have to answer. And that night, sources say Rasheeda broke down completely. Not in front of the cameras, not in the boutiques where she wore her armor of confidence, but alone in her room, her cries muffled by pillows, her strength momentarily cracked by the pain of seeing her children caught in the crossfire of adult mistakes. And still, even in that vulnerability, she rose the next morning, prepared breakfast, braided hair, and smiled through the storm, embodying the resilience that had now become her defining trait. While Kirk's downward spiral continued, punctuated by a public outburst at a local event where witnesses described him slamming a drink onto a table and shouting, "You all don't know the truth, she's not perfect either," before storming out into the night, leaving fans and onlookers stunned at the rawness of his pain and anger. Though the damage to his already fragile reputation was undeniable. And what followed was a period of eerie silence, weeks where neither Rasheeda nor Kirk made public statements, a calm that only intensified speculation, with fans wondering if reconciliation was secretly in the works or if the silence was simply the exhaustion of two people who had given too much to a battle no one could win. And then, just as whispers of reconciliation began to circulate, a shocking development reignited the drama. A leaked audio recording, allegedly captured during one of their last private conversations, in which Rasheeda's voice could be heard saying, "You'll never break me again, Kirk, not after everything," followed by Kirk's trembling reply, "I already broke myself." A raw and devastating exchange that immediately went viral, leaving fans divided between those who sympathized with his apparent regret and those who saw it as too little, too late. And for Rasheeda, the leak was both a violation and a liberation, exposing the truth she had long carried in silence, while also reminding her of the cruelty of living a life where even private pain became public spectacle. Yet she refused to be silenced. Attending a major industry event just days later, in a stunning gown, her smile radiant, her presence magnetic. And when asked by reporters how she was holding up, she answered simply, "I'm choosing myself, my children, and my peace," a line that instantly became a rallying cry on social media, quoted, shared, and celebrated as the final word in her ongoing battle with betrayal. While Kirk, now increasingly isolated, released a halting video statement from what appeared to be his home office, admitting, "I failed as a husband, I failed as a partner, and I don't know how to fix what I've broken, but I want to be a better father, and I hope one day I can earn forgiveness," a confession that drew mixed reactions, with some fans applauding his honesty and others condemning it as performative damage control. And still, the story of Kirk and Rasheeda refused to fade, because theirs was no longer just a marriage gone wrong but a cautionary tale about love under the spotlight, about the ways fame amplifies flaws, and about the human cost of turning private heartbreak into public entertainment. And as their divorce finally moved into its final legal stages, with custody arrangements and financial settlements nearly complete, the world was left with one final question hanging over the saga. Would Kirk and Rasheeda ever find peace in the ruins of what they once had, or would their names remain forever entwined with scandal, betrayal, and the relentless drama that turned their love story into a spectacle for millions? Because in the end, this wasn't just about two people, it was about the countless fans who saw pieces of their own heartbreak in the story, who followed every twist as if it were their own life, and who would carry the lessons, the warnings, and the unanswered questions long after the final papers were signed and the cameras turned away. And so, as the curtain falls on the whirlwind saga of Kirk and Rasheeda, one truth remains impossible to ignore: love on screen may dazzle, but life off-screen can break even the strongest hearts. What began as a fairy tale partnership admired by millions turned into a cautionary tale of betrayal, resilience, and the heavy price of fame. Fans are still reeling, debating whether Kirk deserves another chance or whether Rasheeda's bold step toward freedom marks the true beginning of her empowerment story. The family was left divided, emotions ran high, and the world witnessed every twist and turn as though it were scripted for television. But this was no show. This was raw, messy, and heartbreakingly real. Now the question is yours to answer. Do you believe Kirk's regret is sincere? Or do you think Rasheeda's decision to walk away was the only way forward? Could there be reconciliation behind closed doors? Or has this marriage finally run its course? The story may seem to be at its end, but the possibilities keep fans on edge, because with these two, anything can happen, and one surprise is always followed by another. If you've been gripped by the drama, if you've felt the heartbreak and the shock with every revelation, then it's time to make your voice heard. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Whose side are you on? And what do you think the future holds for Kirk and Rasheeda? While you're here, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support, and subscribe so you never miss the next twist in the stories that keep the world talking. This isn't just celebrity gossip, it's a journey of love, loss, and survival in the spotlight. And you, the fans, are part of every chapter. So stay tuned, because the next revelation might be just around the corner.